Hey, I'm Hashim. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. This video is going to be a short review of the Urth Norite backpack, the things I do like about it and things I don't like about it because I don't think it's for everyone. So getting straight into it, if you have a look at this bag, you can obviously see it's quite a minimalist type of design for a backpack, meaning it doesn't really look like a typical camera bag. It doesn't look that large, but it actually can fit a fair bit in it. And the way this bag is offered is either on its own or with additional accessories like the camera insert that I have in here. I'll show you some B-roll footage of these features as I talk about them because I don't want to do too much fiddling with the bag right now. It's going to be easier just to show you some previous footage, but I'll try and keep breaking down some of these features as we go. So the great thing about having an insert that was actually designed for the backpack means that it's quite a seamless union of the two accessories. So basically you set up the insert however you want for your camera and lenses and whatnot, and the bag itself, whether or not you're using the insert, has a whole bunch of little pockets of its own. Now, there's nothing in this bag suitable for actually holding cameras if you don't have the insert. So that just means you would treat it kind of like a normal travel bag or general purpose backpack. And once the insert is, well, inserted into the backpack, you still have a bit of storage room above it. And as you can see, you've got the laptop sleeve, which is nicely lined with a bit of felt. You've got another little sleeve there for, I don't know, iPad or whatever else really. There's little pockets for a pen or smaller accessories there. There's another front pocket. There's a couple of zipped compartments in there as well. So there's some nice hidden storage within the bag. Otherwise, moving on to access, this is one of the cool and unique features about this bag. So basically you have these side access zips on either side of the bag. So if you're using the Urth insert in there, you unzip that and then you can leave the door of the insert open so you don't have to unzip that again. Because once it's in there, you don't have to worry too much about zipping the insert up all the way, and just basically means you can access gear from the insert on either side of the bag. And the insert itself also has these little access pockets for you to chuck things like filters or other accessories. So it's a fairly smart design. It's a bit different than anything else I've seen in previous backpacks, which really leans into that whole minimal approach that I think Urth was going for with this one. So I definitely put it through its paces in terms of putting a lot of gear, a lot of weight in this bag, and also putting it through a lot of wet and snowy weather. In terms of weatherproofing, the bag held up really well. Both rain and snow weren't really a problem and didn't make it into the bag. Talking about loading the bag up, that's where I ran into one of the issues, the main cons that I had about this bag. And that is that when it was loaded up and I'd be walking, I'd find that the straps here would loosen as I'd be walking, or the bag would bump around. They'd suddenly just slip off and loosen, even though it was set up properly there. And my fix was to just roll up the excess length from the adjustment strap there, use the little elasticated holder to tuck it back in, to kind of jam it underneath the bracket so that it wouldn't loosen easily. And that seemed to work fairly well. You could find other ways to work around it. I think I read somewhere online, someone had the same issue and they just taped it once they adjusted the length that they wanted. But in my eyes, that's just a simple little design flaw that if there was a lot of heavy duty testing, it could have been potentially ironed out. In terms of external pockets, it doesn't have many, especially when it comes to having like a side pocket for a tripod or a water bottle and whatnot. It does have a little pocket at the front top of the bag there for something small, and another one hidden behind this pad on the back of the bag. The next thing I thought I'd mention was comfort. Even though it has a minimal design, the padding on the straps was quite good, and especially this padding at the back of the bag, which even has a little bit of a curve, kind of like a lumbar curve almost, which made it comfortable in my experience. The other feature is the little straps that it has for carrying something like a tripod. Now again, this is a little bit unconventional in the approach since there's no big pockets on the sides of the bag on the outside. So you'd basically use these two straps to hook on a tripod to the side of the bag, or even you could reconfigure this strap and put it on the bottom and just set the two straps up on the bottom if you wanted to carry it on the bottom there. So the versatility is good, but it just means that deploying and hooking on a tripod is a little bit slower than some other bag solutions out there. Lastly, there's a couple of smart little things like, the handle at the top and another hooking point on there if you wanted to hang the bag somewhere. But that's pretty much it. I think that's a fairly decent overview of some of the main features and functionality points of the bag. All right, so to summarize everything, let's go through a list of pros and cons. In terms of positives, the first thing would probably be just that it's a nice looking bag with that minimal design. It looks better than a lot of other camera bags out there. It doesn't look tacky. It's just a nice design for a bag, whether you're going to be using it for photography or general purpose. Second thing is the construction quality. I found it to be really well constructed and made out of good quality materials. And tying into that would be another pro, which was the weatherproofing. Again, it was quite effective in my testing in the rain and wind and snow. Next thing is that versatile approach with some of the access points. A lot of users would probably like the ability to use the bag in a few different ways when it comes to hooking the tripod on the bottom or the side, having the access points on either side, the extra storage on top of the insert, the ability to just use it without the insert at all. In my opinion, a fairly versatile design. Last thing I thought I'd mention is the environmental and sustainability initiatives from Urth. It's just nice to know that they're putting in certain efforts with things like the trees that they plant with every purchase and so on, whether it's the bag or other items from Urth. I think that's just a nice little bonus worth mentioning. Now, moving on to cons, I think you've probably figured some of them out, but the first one I would say is that it might be too minimal for some users. So obviously it doesn't have as many extra pockets as a lot of other camera bags out there. For example, the more common style of pockets for a water bottle or a tripod, or having all those points where you can hook things on. But I think that's just the trade-off when you go for minimalism. You have to lose a little bit in terms of potential functionality. The next con, in my opinion, is the price. I think it's a bit high, especially once you factor in the insert or other accessories like the other organizer that they sell. The base price for the bag alone, I think, is 249 Australian dollars, at least the last time I checked, but obviously head to their website if you want an updated price, which makes it similar in price to some competing bags that are quite popular out there, like the Peak Design or other options. The next thing is that it's just not really too ideal for heavier loads. Not that you can fit a huge loadout of cameras in this bag, it's just that design flaw that I mentioned with the straps that can easily slip down, especially if you are loading it with a bit more gear and walking around. And with enough usage, this could even happen if you're not loading the bag too much. Again, there are those little workarounds, but that's definitely just a con that I thought I would mention, that hopefully if they make a follow-up version of this bag or a new batch, they could find ways to resolve that issue. The last con I thought I'd mention is that the access to gear in the insert, even though it's quite smart and unique, it is going to be a little bit slower trying to reach into those pockets than a bag that already has its own door that completely opens and exposes the gear inside. So because you have the side zips on the bag and then the door on the insert, it just makes accessing gear a little bit slower than it otherwise could have been. All right, so those are pretty much my thoughts on the Urth Norite backpack. Overall, if I was to give it a score, I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. So pretty good bag. Take those pros and cons into consideration if you're thinking of buying one, and maybe check out some other reviews out there. Don't just take my word for it, but yeah, these have been my thoughts on it. Hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you on the next video.